Welcome to Bump Set Chat, the podcast where volleyball professionals come on and share their stories, experiences, and advice. And from LOVB's Austin team, I have Molly McCage. Welcome.
Hi, happy to be here.
Yeah, so happy you're here. And the way we start things off is we do a few random questions. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so easy one. Favorite movie?
Say any of the Harry Potters.
All right. And second one, you're coming home. You haven't been home in a while. What's that favorite meal you're looking forward to the most, whether it's a home-cooked meal or one of your favorite restaurants?
Breakfast tacos.
Ah, okay. Now, so I had a Chaz Galloway who played for University of Hawaii. He's from Cali, and I had no idea what a California burrito was. You know, speaking of Mexican food, and it's like it's with French fries. It was just like such a weird thing.
That's weird. I will say that's a California thing. Here in Texas, like Tex-Mex is so prevalent.
Yeah.
Breakfast tacos are really just like bacon, egg, and cheese on a flour tortilla, but it's just like the best thing ever. I love it.
All right, there we go. And third one, you're hitting the road. What's on your playlist?
I'm a big Hozier girl. I listen to a lot of like indie pop, indie rock. Yeah, I'll keep it in that genre.
All right, there we go. So welcome to the podcast. And first of all, are you getting excited for your first season with LOVB?
I am so excited. This one hits home because I am literally home and we have such wonderful fans already and everybody is so excited. Our coaching staff is great. The girls I play with are wonderful, truly wonderful. I just have a really good feeling.
Excellent. And I saw the roster, like a bunch of girls from Texas too.
Yes, there are 8 of us.
Wow.
It's a dream. It's so cool to have 8 of us and not all of us played together at the same time at Texas. So to have like different classes of Texas players and, you know, sharing stories with each other. But then there is like a kind of Texas athlete, like you can pick them out. I think that like there's a way that we trained at Texas. There's, you know, the coaching staff has been much the same like throughout the past 15, 20 years. And I love it. I think that there's a certain tenacity that the Texas athletes have and just kind of that go-getter competitive mindset. And truly, it's wonderful playing with old teammates as well.
Awesome. All right. So let's go to the beginning. So where are you from? Clearly, you're from Texas.
Yes.
And what part of Texas did you grow up in?
I grew up in Spring, Texas. So it's a suburb of Houston. My 18s year, I played club in Houston, but then my 18s year, my parents and I were like, you know, to get ready for Texas, I committed pretty early, my sophomore year of high school back then when you could do that.
Yeah.
And I just knew that this school was, if they were going to offer me, I was going to say yes. Like, they were my number one dream school and committed rather early. I don't suggest that these days, but I made a wonderful decision, but my 18s year, the Houston clubs weren't doing so hot and a lot of like new clubs, old clubs falling. And so my 18s year, we drove to Austin every Sunday. We did 2-a-days on Sundays. And my parents, as crazy as they are, were like, yeah, let's do this. So It was a total of, it was 2.5 hours. And honestly, it was the best thing for me. I had a really, really good team that year. We did really well at JOs and I lived in Austin, you know, come summertime whenever I started at Texas. So it ended up working, but it was wild. It was absolutely wild. If I have children, I don't know if I'll do that kind of thing for them. But it's so cool because I had wonderful coaching that year and I think it prepared me best for Texas. But then also where we practice right now for LOVB Austin is where I played whenever I was 18.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's amazing.
It's full circle.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And now, when did you first discover volleyball?
I was 14 and my mom saw an ad in the newspaper for a camp. And she was like, my 14-year-old girl is very tall now, so we should do something other than cheerleading and swimming. And so she took me to this summer camp and it was like a total of 6 people. And I was really terrible at this sport.
Oh, no.
Like there was something about like serving over the net. I couldn't serve over the net for the first year of playing. I made the B team in middle school and, you know, my mom was like, the coach kept saying, you have so much potential. We hear this word a lot, potential, you know, you're tall, you're athletic, but I could not get this sport down. And my parents put me in club volleyball. It's something honestly we couldn't afford. I'm the youngest of five children, and my
Oh, shoot.
parents were like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And so I was a scholarshiped kid, and my club coach was awesome. And I honestly asked to quit because I was like, I'm really bad, and I feel like I'm holding you guys back. And I begged my dad not to go to practice because
Oh.
I was so embarrassed. Um, but my coach and my teammates were awesome and encouraging, and so I stuck with it. And I'm now obsessed.
Oh.
Clearly, the rest is history. But
Yeah.
it wasn't love at first sight at all.
Well, good for your parents for making you stick with it, because some parents could say, all right, we'll pull you out, and who knows where you would have ended up.
Exactly, exactly. I think there were many, many people on my side of like, no, 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 we think that this is a good thing for you. And volleyball has taught me so much, and I'm so happy that that was the sport and the path that I chose.
And now, any of your older siblings play volleyball, or you were that first volleyball player?
I was the first, yeah. So my dad coached. My dad was a basketball player, and he coached all of five of us in basketball, and none of us chose to play basketball. That one kind of stung. And we're all tall as well and athletic, but I hated the physical contact of it.
Yeah.
I didn't like being pushed around for no reason. I think my sister the same, and my brothers chose football, and yeah, it was like the other tall girl sport. It was either that or swimming, and they
Yeah.
were like, "We think volleyball would be best for you."
Oh, nice. Yeah, I had Amber Gidi on, who's playing for the Houston Love team. I said Houston, yeah. Yeah, she was saying she loves volleyball because it's non-contact. Even though as a middle, she's getting pushed around everywhere, but she just loves it from that aspect of things.
Yeah, no, we definitely do get shoved around a lot. That
Yeah,
is true.
absolutely. And now, after all these years, what is the hook volleyball has on you that, here you are many years later and playing professionally at home now?
One, I mean, we touched on it earlier. I think the community is so wonderful. I stepped away from volleyball at 25, and it was the people that I missed in the community. There's nothing like it. Not definitely not in the corporate world. I wouldn't even say in other sports. There's
Yeah.
something just so lovely about the community of volleyball. I also feel like even now going into practice, I have something to learn. I have so many things to learn still, and I'm 30 years old. This sport is constantly teaching me things, and it's like truly a team sport. You
Yeah.
cannot, besides getting an ace, but like especially as a middle, like you have to lean on your teammates, and I think that fosters some of the best relationships I've ever had. I mean, all my best friends are former teammates or current
Yeah.
teammates, so it's given me so much, and I just want to give back to it.
Nice. And you hit a good point there. You're always learning something from the game. Whether you're playing pickup in some gym and some old guy does some weird serve or weird swing, it's like, "Oh, how'd you do that?" Or the scoop shot or something. Like, there's always something to be picked up from any player at any age, essentially.
Yes, I am currently playing with some rock star athletes, and every day I'm like, that was a crazy shot. Like, is it just because you're crazy physical? Or like, I could also try to do that. Everybody's different style of play. I also love, in Love, especially our team, Love Austin, we have foreigners. So we have people from different countries from all over the world. And so their style of play, I can, pick up tips from them.
Yeah.
We have an Italian coach. Like, the game of volleyball is played differently all over the world, and it's not black and white at all. There's
Yeah.
always something to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So, after high school, you ended up at Texas. What was your path to, were there other schools on the list, or Texas was where you're going?
Yeah, my mom, again, my parents were so dedicated. My mom was like, no, you should definitely go see other schools. Like, even at this age, you're a sophomore in high school. But I actually grew up, the first 10 years of my life, I lived in Indiana, a suburb of Chicago, because my dad worked in Chicago. So my sister was at IU. And so that school is just an awesome campus, awesome feel. I was really tempted to go there. The volleyball team was not as strong, but everything else, like quality of life, would have been awesome. The coach was awesome. And then I also went to LSU. We drove there. I went to Purdue. We drove there from Indiana. But at the same time, I was like, if Texas is offering me, why would I say no?
Yeah.
And at first, I went on a visit, and I was rather intimidated. I thought that it was like, I couldn't believe that I could compete at that level. Honestly, there were
Yeah.
many times I was doubting myself, but again, I had a community that was like, if they are offering you, they want you. And so Texas was close to home, but not too close. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, it is a wonderful college town within a city. I think UT is just one of the coolest locations for like a college town, but then also living in Austin, it's just one of my favorite cities to live in.
Yeah.
Um, and I knew that the coaching staff was bought into the human and not just the athlete. And so
Yeah.
that was a really, really big thing of like, we are trying to win championships, of course, but we are also trying to make sure that we're helping women become who they want to be and who they,
Yeah.
can be.
Excellent. And now that first year, what were some of the challenges? Because, it's a lot. First of all, you're playing in a fall sport. You come from sort of club season ending in June, maybe, or championships or whatnot. Then you're mid-July, whatnot. You're starting your, sort of adult life, and not only college, but now a D1 athlete. That's a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It is a lot. And I don't know if people talk about it as often as they should. That transition is so hard. As an 18-year-old, you are not equipped with like the mental fortitude to handle that kind of change. And I think the level of play in Houston, I wasn't always on the strongest club team. I wasn't always at the strongest high school. We didn't make it far into playoffs. And so like that jump, the level of play from high school to college, I think is
Right.
huge, especially at a school like Texas. So every day in practice, I felt like I was drowning. Like I was like information overload. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was learning too much. And it's cutthroat. Like I have to say, like every single day, you're like fighting for a starting spot, and it feels like that. Also, you have school. Like you have to go to class, and there's
Right.
somebody making sure you go to class. There's somebody making sure you go to study hall. You don't know how to properly fuel your body, so you have to like meet with a nutritionist and then get a chiropractor appointment. All these things are. I say this, and I recognize how wonderful these resources are. Texas gives us plenty of resources. At the same time, it is your days are incredibly long and physically taxing,
Mm-hmm.
and on top of being mentally taxing in a brand new place. My first year was really hard. The
Yeah.
adjustment was really hard. Of course, I called my parents a lot and cried. I am a big crier, so I had to get it all out. And I thankfully I came in with a class of 5, and we were really close. And so we just became best friends instantly, whether it was trauma bonding or not. We were just, even still to this day, best friends. So I had a group of friends to kind of lean on and get me through that. And Jarrett also, I was really fortunate to start as a freshman, and we won that championship year, and which was also crazy. Like I feel like I'm drowning every day, but then we are successful and we
Right.
won. So I was like, this is crazy. But Jarrett and Eric and Salima was our assistant at the time. They saw something in our class, and I have just the foundation of like how I play was like Texas, or
Yeah.
is Texas, and I attribute a lot of my like blocking skill set, especially to Eric and the coaching stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for my time, but I also have to recognize it was difficult.
Yeah. Well, and then another thing to add into this, you're coming from club, you're playing with 18-year-olds only. Now you're going into college, you're playing with 19, 20, 21, people who are, stronger and more knowledge of the game. You're not just playing a different level of volleyball, you're playing a whole different level of volleyball.
100%. And there are people, I mean, I felt like I was overwhelmed. I can't imagine now, like, I mean, they're slowly phasing out, but there's like 6-year seniors who are even like definitely more
Right.
physical than these
Yeah.
little freshmen coming in. And so that kind of jump, and I think volleyball is the kind of game that you just get better with time. Like I've gotten my butt kicked on the beach court in California by a 40-year-old woman who is like, I just can see the game better than you. And I know that I'm more physical than her, but she's just way smarter and can kick my butt anytime. So this is a game of strategy, and I
Yeah.
felt way behind at
Yeah.
18.
And you talked about Coach Elliott. How big of an impact has he made on you as a player and a person? Still many years later.
Yeah, I am very fortunate and lucky actually saying this, in that he is still one of my good friends to this day. I can call him at any time and lean on him anytime, and he'd be there for me. So that I know is a privilege to have Jarrett, as a coach to player relationship, we weren't always seeing eye to eye. Like it was definitely at times we were butting heads, but at the end of the day, Jarrett is looking out for what's best for you, and I knew that love, and maybe that's why we could kind of butt heads, because it was like, it's coming out of love somewhere, and he's really looking out for us. He also just has high expectations, very, very high. And every single day in practice, like, it really kind of calloused me into being ready for the professional volleyball world, I think. And that, like, every single day you're competing, and that kind of mindset, of course, can wear on you. It's really, really difficult. But at the same time, like, I think I'm better prepared for pro life than other teammates that I've had who haven't had that kind of coach who just lays down the law and is straightforward and is honest and has high expectations for every single practice.
All right.
Yeah, he really is a wonderful person and coach.
Nice. And during your time there, you were captain of the team. What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot. I think we voted each year for captainship, and I think I was captain my junior and senior year. Yes. It meant a lot to have that respect from my peers. I generally would always be like, oh, I'd be the one that could lead by example. I think vocalizing leadership isn't easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned a lot actually from our strength coach, Donnie Mabe, who's still there now. And he talked a ton about servant leadership and just showing up for others. And that's how you should lead, and connecting and building relationships. Like, there's no way you can get on a teammate if there's no trust.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Jarrett would get on us. He would build the trust first and then, like, hold you to a high standard. That was the biggest thing that I learned from Donnie. And he'd be the same way. Like, our workouts were grueling, but it was all out of love, because he was like, this is only going to make you better.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had that by my junior year, and that, like, I've earned the respect of my teammates, so I can show up for them and be the kind of the person in between the team and the coach, and understanding what the team needs and what the coach needs, and trying to find the middle ground.
All right. Very cool. And now, knowing all you know now, if you could go back to freshman Molly, what advice would you give her?
Take it easy. I think she was a stress ball. And many times the weight of being great at this sport felt overwhelming, and finding joy and gratitude. Gratitude is a huge piece of my mental game now as a professional athlete. Finding the fun in this, because it really is a game, and it should bring you a smile every single time you practice, every single time you play. I'd tell her to find some joy instead of stress.
All right. There we go. And now, if any player or kids listening to this, they're looking at schools, why should they pick Texas if they have an option to go there?
Oh, it's a no-brainer, right? I don't know. I look at Texas, and like how I felt, I was rather intimidated, but at the same time, Texas has been one of the best schools historically for volleyball for a reason. It's because they hold you to a high standard. They are well equipped with a staff. There's a reason why all the staff members have stayed also. Like, that is a huge testament to the program itself, is that athletes aren't transferring out a ton and staff members aren't rotating out a ton. So that community there is rock solid. I'd say your life off the court can be whatever you want it to be, because you live in a really, really cool city. And so you don't have to just focus on volleyball. But if you do, there are some volleyball nerds that are on that team as well. It's also a school that is the coaching staff is very aware of how to make the jump from college to pro. So if that's your aspiration, these coaches are well equipped to help you do that. That's, and like the connections they've made to agents and coaches overseas. And fortunately, we have these wonderful domestic leagues now. But if your dreams are playing for, the USA national team, like, or whatever national team you want to be part of, like, they have the connections to make sure you can do that jump.
All right. Perfect. And now, looking back at your time at Texas, what were some of the highlights that you like? Wow, that was amazing.
I don't want to brag here, but um, my entire 4 years, we made it to the final four every year. Um, yeah, and I know that that is crazy to look back on, but it even felt normal at the time. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to duh, like our season lasts until middle of December, end of December.
Right.
Um, and I did it with a class that wasn't actually like super star-studded. You know, we had a DS that Kat Brooks, one of my best friends, who went under the radar all of the time, but started all 4 years and, didn't earn any All-American status at all. But whenever she left, the entire coaching staff was like, oh, wait, that she was actually the glue. Like Molly can, bang a slide or whatever. And Amy Neal is first team All-American and she's wonderful as well. But, we didn't have the big names in our class. So we ended up being the most winning class in Texas.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with we were really close. We were just great people.
Yeah.
And I think our practices were just healthy. And I don't know, I think we just had a wonderful relationship. And I think that's why we were so good.
Yeah.
We won a lot.
Nice. And now, looking back, was there any, now that you've been away for a long time, was there any certain drill that you just hated, you dreaded? It's like, oh, I can't believe coach is making us do this again.
I actually have a funny story about this. We did ball setter, ball hitter every day for all 4 years. And I hated it because as a middle, like the first year, they'll give you blocking assignments, front the middle, release to the outside. They'll help you with that. Second year, less. Third year, like you're in a read almost all of the time, unless it's like one specific hitter, sure. But that drill in just a straight read every day. And if you made one wrong move, you're out. Like it was just brutal. But I hated it so much because it was such a mental game. And, we have amazing hitters at Texas all of the time. So your fingers are getting blown up. I've had 2 finger surgeries actually. And, and it's messing with your mind. You want to make the right read and you want to be a good read blocker. But I will say it's one of my favorite drills now.
Yeah.
So I hated it, but it's one of the things I always preach, especially to young middles, is as often as you can get into a read situation and make those moves on your own and understanding what's happening on the other side and why you need to make those moves. Like it's all strategy. It's like a chess game. So I attribute a lot of my blocking actually to that really difficult drill.
All right. And during your time at Texas, during the course of the season, was there a certain day that always was circled? Something on the calendar, like, oh, we can't wait for, this match, or was it senior night, or just, the tournament?
Tournament time always felt like Christmas. It is December.
Yeah.
Which I guess, yeah, but there's something about like every year the tournament comes, you're playing schools outside of your conference. It's do or die. It's like crazy madness going on. But I was always very, very impressed with how level-headed the coaching staff kept us. And I don't know, every year we went in, maybe not my freshman year, I was like so scared of everything. And I was like, we're going to lose. And then we won. But every year after that, it was such a joyful, exciting time of the year. And I went in feeling confident every year. And I will definitely attribute that to our upperclassmen and our coaches for being like, no, this is what Texas does.
Yeah.
Like we get into the tournament, we we get our fists out and we like dogfight until the end. And I think that's why they've been such a successful program.
All right. Excellent. And after you finished playing at Texas, I saw that you played for Team USA in a Pan America Cup. How was that experience?
It was great. I played for 2 summers with the national team. Obviously the highest level of volleyball I've played. I learned a ton from all the athletes that are playing there. And I also just am really thankful for developing such strong relationships with Karch and Tama and Virtue. They've just been wonderful friends since my time with
nice.
USA. And competing, internationally was great. And I think having that on my resume has helped me, land contracts and get my foot in the door as
Yeah.
well. Um, I I'm very, very thankful for my time there. And there's still a little bit of me itching to like get back in the USA gym, but we shall see.
And now, speaking of Team USA, do you remember that first time you got the jersey, you saw your name on the back of it?
I do. I very much do.
And
It was a really special moment.
yeah, I bet it was. And how about that first match you got, put in to play?
Truly wonderful. I remember telling my mom, like, I wanted, I wanted 4 rings coming out of college, and then I wanted to, get the Olympics tattooed on me or something. But, I did not achieve those things, but I very much had an aspiration to represent USA. And the fact that, I don't know, I have just had so many incredible coaches that believed in me, and earning a spot on a USA roster is a huge honor in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And finally competing with them, we got our jerseys and we took pictures in them, and it was like, oh my gosh, like I'm part of this.
Yeah.
Like I'm part of this USA family. And Karch was always so wonderful in that, like, before I came at the beginning of a quad, and he is so great in saying, whatever medal we earn, like a piece of it belongs to every single person that competed in this quad. And that's not to say I like earned a piece of that medal that they got.
Right.
That team was wonderful. But the fact that Karch expressed that sentiment to us, it very much felt like I'm part of this family, this very, very cutthroat, competitive, high-level family. But I am very, very thankful for that time and those people in my life.
Nice. And then after that was done, you went over to Europe to play. How was that? What was that process like, landing your first contract and was like, okay, I'm going to Europe?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I think I look back and I really had a cushy life. Like, Germany is great. It's a super easy transition from America to Europe. I played with other Americans every single year that I played. And Tama Miyashiro was actually my assistant coach in Stuttgart for 2 years. So like, I had an American coach, I had American teammates. It was like little America in Germany. So like culturally, not that big of a shock. But I loved it. I wish I didn't stop playing internationally. Looking back, I mean, everything happens for a reason, for sure. But I had a wonderful team. I played with one of my best friends, Madi. We've been best friends since like we were 15 years old, competing on the youth national team. Yeah. So no, I truly have no complaints. I know that there's so many horror stories playing overseas, and you never know what you're going to get. But I somehow landed the jackpot, and I lived in a wonderful city. I lived in Wiesbaden and then Stuttgart for 2 years, and both cities were wonderful. The Germans are very accommodating. Everybody speaks English.
Yeah.
I also felt like, in college, Texas had a system, and not to throw them under the bus, but I felt like they could set middles more, or at least like, I think all teams can set middles more. I'm always just going to say that.
Yeah.
But I felt like I developed more of my offensive game going overseas, because these coaches were like, who are you? And I was like, I'm going to be this person. So I ended up getting way better at attacking in front. I feel like in college, I was just really focused on hitting behind and hitting slides. But I felt like I built the confidence overseas to also add more, variety to my offensive game. I even had wonderful blocking coaches as well overseas, and that's not something that's super common either, of having really strong coaches. So I'm really thankful for my time in Germany. Nice.
Yeah, I've heard that about the European game. They sort of more well-rounded versus this side of this pond. We're really highly focused on, individual sort of your middles. This is what you focus on. Don't worry about other skills and things like that.
Yes, I don't love it about American volleyball. Especially the youth programs, I see that so often. And, you're tall, you play in the middle. And so I've always been the tall one. And so ball control, I've been behind. And that's something I got overseas. And they were like, no, we're doing ball control literally every single day for at least 30 minutes to an hour, at a system setting, serving. Like I I hate it actually. I hate seeing it when I'm like, don't just stick the tall girl in the middle. Like make her do other things,
Right.
make her pass, like get her to touch the ball. I don't even know if kids should play a single position. Like you should just play all rotations
Hmm.
until you're like 14. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you because you're missing out. How do you're compete? It's a world global stage to compete against, and you can't just be okay. You're the middle. You just focus on hitting. We'll sub you out, and you don't have to worry about serving either. It's like no, you've got to learn all aspects.
Yeah, I actually even think this might be a hot take, but I think NCAA needs to adopt international rules. I don't know why on the women's side, the international rules of the game are so different than the NCAA, whereas the men's side, they don't differ, even the
Right.
ball. I think we need to emulate the college game to the international game as much as we can. I think it
Yep.
does middles and a lot of athletes a disservice by making it different.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, another thing about, playing overseas, you were so right about, like, you were talking about horror stories and whatnot. I've had other players on, and it's just like they're up in Finland where it's dark most of the time, or playing in another country where, the coach doesn't even speak English. And, you think of professional volleyball, it's like, it's not, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, too, with some of these contracts that these people make.
I know it's right when people would ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I'm a pro athlete. And being a pro athlete to a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you live the high life. Like you think pro athlete, you think, LeBron James. I'm like, we don't live the same life at all. We're getting closer, but like for sure you have to go overseas. Sometimes you're the only foreigner, which can be great. Like if you're comfortable in that situation.
Hmm.
My friend Madi Bug actually prefers to be the only foreigner because she's like, I get to make these relationships with people all over the world. It doesn't matter where you're from if you develop a friendship.
Yeah.
Like, but it can be uncomfortable. You don't speak the language. It's hard to relate to people. Um, you might get a coach who, doesn't really feel like coaching you, or you don't agree with their systems, or you're just on a losing team all the time. Like there are many things that can be at play and also you're not making millions of dollars like
Yeah.
the NBA, MLB, NFL. So it's definitely not as glamorous as people say. That being said, it's still the best job that I've had being a pro athlete
Yeah.
for sure. It is way more glamorous than a 9 to 5, I will say.
Absolutely. So after you were done playing in Europe, did you retire, or was the Athlete United come into that? When did that come into play?
Sure. So at age 25, I thought I need to use my you know I graduate from Texas. I need to use my degree in something.
Oh, what is
And
that
I felt
degree,
a
by the
little
way? I didn't even ask.
communications,
Okay,
communications.
perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, I earned this degree. I felt like I was experiencing some burnout from volleyball. I, for some reason, told myself, I don't know how high of a level I can get to. I wanted to move back to the States and feel like I had a bigger purpose. Um, Looking back, that's so silly because as athletes, I think we actually have the biggest platform to make a difference and to
Hmm.
actually have a purpose. And my 25-year-old self did not see that. So I retired and I moved to LA and I was like, I'm done with volleyball. I'm just going to get a normal job. And I worked for a couple startups I was helping with their marketing. And I was like, just kidding. This is awful. I don't want to do this. And so, about a year later, so that was 2019, and 2020, summer of 2020, Jordan Larson messaged me on Instagram and was like, hey, would you play volleyball if it were here in the United States? And I was like, what do you mean? There's nothing here in the US?
Yeah, that's a
What's
fairy
going
tale.
on?
Why are you pulling my leg?
Right, right. And so I heard her out and I met with John Patrickoff and Jonathan Soros with Athletes Unlimited. And it sounded like an outlandish idea, but I was like, honestly, I hate my corporate jobs and I really miss volleyball. So yeah, I'm in. And so that was 2020. We started, Jordan Larson and I started this PEC. At the time, Feluca Akinrado was actually on the PEC as well, this player executive committee.
Mm-hmm.
And this committee meets with the founders, Jonathan and John, and some other staff weekly. And we're also tasked with building the roster for Athletes Unlimited. So at the time, the three of us were like, all right, let's build this roster. Feluca ended up she had signed to play in Japan. So the seasons actually ended up conflicting. So we added Kristen Tupac and Cassie Lichtman and Percy Jackson. And we slowly but surely built this roster of 44. And it was weird because it was like coming out of COVID. What is this American League? It's, it's different. It's not just a normal traditional franchise-based league. It's, the teams are changing every week. But I was so happy to be playing again and with some incredible athletes. I had only played with Jordan, in the USA gym, and playing with her is awesome. Betty De La Cruz, it was amazing. Shayla Castro, like these people that I've looked up to for years. I'm like, now you're my teammate. This is crazy. But Athletes Unlimited, I think, they've done so many amazing things for the sport and myself as well. I've worked for them in different capacities, but playing for Athletes Unlimited is always such a joy. And I plan to continue playing with them until my body says no.
Nice. And for those that don't know, what is the Athletes Unlimited Pro Volleyball? It's not a season, I guess. It's really almost like a tournament, right?
Yes, actually, we're rebranding to be kind of a tournament as well. Think of it like an all-star tournament, especially now that we have these two other leagues here in America. So it's 5 weeks of competition and there's a leaderboard. And so based on your stats and how many matches you win, you can climb up this leaderboard. And every single week the teams change. So the top 4 point scorers get to choose their teams.
Oh, okay.
And so they become 4 captains. And it's crazy. It's high level. It's cutthroat because you're like, where you land on the leaderboard is how much bonus money you earn at the end of the season as well.
Okay.
So there's money attached to how well you play and how well your team does. It's so funny because it's an individual competition at the end of the day. There's only one person earning the championship title. But because the teams are changing each week and there's 44 of us, it almost feels like you have 43 other teammates. Like you get to hang out with mostly everybody every single week. And we have wonderful programming where, once a week we just talk about how to empower one another or what's it like being a mom in sports.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that you can do off the court to gel, and it would actually benefit you to climb the leaderboard if you gelled with your teammates. So like there's this opposite side of being competitive, but then like loving one another. And it's a beautiful marriage of the two. My time in Athletes Unlimited has taught me a lot about being a teammate and being a volleyball player.
Nice. And now is it every year at the same location or do you guys change up the locations?
Right. So the first 2 years we were in Dallas, and the venue, we changed to a different time of the year. So we were in the spring, we moved to the fall, which is actually a really good sweet spot for us because it's before the domestic leagues start. You could also play internationally as well. And it's after the national team season. So we kind of are sitting in this like spot where we really can't move. So we report mid-September and we finished beginning of November. The last 2 years we were in Phoenix, and I can't say anything after that.
Yep. All right.
Yes.
Say no more. So then, after Athletes Unlimited, the PVF popped up. So now we have a professional volleyball league that you were part of. How was that, playing on your home soil as a professional volleyball league?
Yeah. PVF came out of nowhere. I felt like it was announced and it was like, all right, we're doing this league literally right now. But it was wonderful. So at the time, this time last year, I was working full-time for Athletes Unlimited. So, 7 weeks out of the year, I'm a professional volleyball player. And the rest of the weeks I am working full-time for AU. I was a player care coordinator. And so I worked with all of the athletes. They have basketball, softball, and lacrosse as well. And I loved my job, but whenever PBF came, it was like, you get to be a pro athlete and just a pro athlete all year long. And I couldn't say no to that. Like,
Right.
that's incredible. So, yeah, I played in Vegas. I played with some of my best friends, Alicia Childress and Kat Bell and Berkeley. Like, I
Yeah.
had such wonderful teammates, and it was incredible because, you keep with these leagues that are happening, starting with AU and PVF and now Love, like, it's just constantly proving that people want to watch volleyball. Like, people
Right.
want to watch high level volleyball. And it was something that fans would say to me all of the time. Most of them are fans of college volleyball, but then it's so wonderful. They're like, oh, I get to continue watching my favorite player. She doesn't just leave and go overseas. Like, I get to watch her here. And it's like way more accessible. You can find us
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube or ESPN. Like, before, I was giving my friends and family like this weird link that you'd have to watch at 3 a.m. Like, that many, nobody's going to watch, right?
No.
And nobody knows what you're doing. But I felt it was so wonderful to actually connect with English speaking American fans, like here on US soil, and they would, I almost was like, I can't believe you remember me. They'd be like, Molly, you played at Texas. I used to be a big fan of yours. And I was like, you know who I am? Like, I have been gone for so long. Like, it was truly wonderful. And it's also just really exciting. It's an exciting time for professional volleyball. And I'm
Yeah.
so happy that I can continue playing.
Absolutely. And it also gives, all these college girls playing, they can continue to play on home soil, and the fans can still, watch them. And like you said, don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. and watch the one person they know versus here. Now they may know 4 or 5 girls that are playing on the team.
Exactly. Exactly. Also, college girls, I think, and I touched on this before, that like they may not always know that they can play overseas. They don't know how to do it. Do I get an agent? How do I get in contact with these teams? Like, how do I build up my resume so they notice me? Like, you can take that out of the equation because you can now see they can get drafted in PVF
Yeah.
or League One. Like, they can get picked up. They can now see what they can be and they can do it.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it's so hard to visualize, can I make this a career? Like, can I
Right.
actually go overseas? Do I want to? So I love what it's doing and bringing college athletes to continue their careers.
Absolutely. And like, going overseas, you don't know what state that league is you're playing in, whether it's in Czechoslovakia or Bulgaria. It's like, what are you getting yourself into? At least here, it's going to be okay.
Yes. Yes, there's a standard too. I think Americans do this really well of it's a standard of like healthcare and like taking care of your body and providing like a solid PT, athletic trainer. Like, that's not always the case over there. There's a lot of like self-care.
Mm-hmm.
But here I think it's, Americans, I think like exercise science is light years ahead of a lot of countries. Like, it's a very invested, field that Americans are in. So I just think that Americans are just generally well taken care of.
Yep, absolutely. And now, this time of year, does it seem like deja vu? You're, getting ready to start a first inaugural season with a first team?
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. I didn't realize this. I'm like, I have now played in all of the leagues for the first inaugural season. And so I'm doing it again. Yeah, of course, like, I'm excited. I'm definitely less nervous,
Mm-hmm.
as I've done it before. But it is really wonderful seeing my teammates that this is their first time.
Yeah.
Like, they've played overseas for so long and they've wanted this dream of playing in America. And especially, my teammates that are also mothers, they're like, my kids can come and I feel like they're safe being with me. I can take care of them. My family can help support. Like, you can now invite your whole community to watch and be part of this career path that you've chosen without feeling like I'm doing a disservice to my family or my community.
Right.
Like, we can finally compete, and it's wonderful. We had our scrimmage in Houston, and like, some of my teammates were like close to crying because they were so thankful that this is happening. And like, I will say what doesn't get old is that hearing yet another person invest or another company invest in professional women's volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
Like that still is so freaking cool that there are people out there that are like, no, this is an incredible product. These athletes are high level. Like that piece of it will never get old for me. And I hope that, you know, whatever happens with these leagues, I know that there's talk of like, there can only be one, but either way, we're growing professional women's volleyball right now, and people are listening.
Yep, and it's on ESPN. It's not firewalled off behind some unknown streaming company. It's out there. People can go see it.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool.
And now, what is League One for those that don't know? Because there's a whole ecosystem with Love.
Yes, so Love started really 4 years ago, and so they have been acquiring clubs from all around the country. And so the model really is there's like Love clubs, and then separately there's Love Pro. So we really want to build a relationship between the clubs that are under the Love umbrella, and same concept of like, we're showing you that you can also be a professional athlete. And, we did a camp a couple weeks ago, and it was so cute. One of them was like, wait, you get paid to do this? You get paid to be an athlete? And it's something that little girls have not thought they could do for a long, long time, right? Like maybe if you're a basketball player, soccer, maybe, but like that's not really a thought that young women have had.
Mm-hmm.
And so showing them and building those relationships of like, no, like if you want to do this, you can. There's actually a career for you. Like we are especially me, like coming back to Austin and playing at Austin Juniors, and now full circle giving back to the Austin community. Like it is so special to feel like I'm giving back and showing athletes that they can do this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, have you played with any of the players before that are on your team? We talked a little bit earlier. There's a whole bunch of Texans on this team.
Yes. So I played with Chiako Bagu and Kat Bell whenever I was at Texas. And I've played with Carly Lloyd a little bit on the USA national team, a little bit at Athletes Unlimited, but not like, I haven't practiced with her a ton. And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Texas alumni, but we haven't like played at the same time together.
Yeah.
So there's still some like kinks to work out. And it's a super cool experience to play with people from all over the world. We have a Japanese libero, an Italian outside, a Swedish outside, but at the same time, like I still need to build relationships with even the Texas girls. Like we didn't play at the same time, but it's cool that we have a lot of shared experiences.
Nice. And now, what was that like, that first practice or that first get together? You have probably some people who've never, like you said, played pro on American soil. They're coming home for the first time. That's, it's just like, it's got to be so cool.
It is. It was like almost emotional. It's something that like the volleyball community has wanted for so long. There was a league like in the early 2000s that failed, and it was like, yet again, like even back then there were volleyball has seen some of the world's greatest athletes. And I don't know. No, I definitely know that we haven't been wonderful about tracking the history of volleyball. There are many, many names that we should attribute to this league actually being possible. So the fact that I think there's a certain gratitude that all of us feel of like, we are young enough and healthy enough to do this together and to build this league that hopefully I like hope for it, but I'm like, I know that these leagues will last because of the surgence of like women's sports in general, but like volleyball is picking up traction every single year. And it's, I don't know, it just feels like our time.
Absolutely.
We've just earned this. And we, as in the entire volleyball community for like decades, have earned this now. And so the practices for sure, it's like, we'll finish. Yesterday was one of the toughest practices we've had. And at the end of it, we were like, I don't know, still beats playing overseas and like not knowing the language. You know what I mean? Like, they're still like, man, we're really happy to be here. And this team is wonderful. We get to compete in less than 30 days.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. It's really cool.
Yeah. You're talking about, the time is right. Volleyball's on such an upswing. You look at last year in Nebraska, 90,000 people in a football stadium to watch a volleyball game. Volleyball is not going away. That's for sure.
I know. And I am like, guys, this is the coolest sport ever. I love bringing like new volleyball fans to like their first live volleyball event. They're like, whoa, I didn't realize it was this physical and this graceful. Like, John Patrikoff was actually so cute. And the first season of watching us at Athletes Unlimited, he was like, you guys have like superpowers or something. Like there's something about like volleyball players. And I just, the team aspects that we've touched on so many times, the fact that these athletes are this tall and this athletic and graceful, like it is such a cool sport. The community is wonderful. Like I'm like, how could you not be in love with the sport? Like it's just so wonderful. And so having that marker of like this many people, 90,000 people are at a football stadium to watch volleyball, it's just like see how awesome it is? Like continue, please, fans. We need this.
Well, it's even on a smaller scale here in our neck of the woods, you know, taking high school parents who've never seen a Division I volleyball. Like, hey, let's go up to the Yukon, 30 minutes away. It's like they come out, like, holy cow, I had no idea it was played at that level or how fast or how hard they hit the ball. It's like, yeah, that's volleyball.
I know, right? So like this backyard, I think volleyball is so wonderful that it's so accessible. So there's a lot of like backyard volleyball, beach volleyball that everybody's like, I know how to do that. It's keep the ball off the floor. But when you watch it at this high of a level, it's like, oh, this is an incredibly intense sport that like I did not even know existed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, women's volleyball doesn't have like the super popular male equivalent, which is really unfortunate for men's volleyball because I love men's volleyball as well, but it just doesn't have the same presence as like baseball, basketball, football, hockey. And so women's volleyball, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. We don't have like a popular male equivalent for people to be like, oh, the women's is not as competitive or whatever, which is not an argument in my opinion. But also like a lot of fans, this would be their first time seeing this sport at a high level. You know, I think that's why it's taken so long for people to grasp like how great it is, because it just hasn't been on ESPN for long enough. It hasn't been touchable, and it hasn't had millions of dollars of investment. So, or like a brother league to help us put us on the map.
Exactly. Yep.
But if we do pull this off, not having a brother league, how freaking cool.
Oh, I know.
Like, what does that say about women's sports and women's volleyball? And that like, we didn't need that. We just showed up and showed you how amazing the sport is.
And the other thing I really liked, and you don't see this in other professional sports, like last year at the PVF, you saw the girls on the bench. They're having fun. They're laughing. They're having a good time. You don't see that excitement from, watching pro hoops or other sports, that excitement, that genuine, like they're not there just to collect a paycheck. They are enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, so much of volleyball is chemistry. And so one bad egg can really ruin like the entire team's chemistry. And I think when you get to this level, that like that's inherent. And volleyball is, like we've touched on, is such a community, like team-based sport. You have to be likable.
Yeah.
You have to be cheering on your teammates. You have to build that chemistry to be successful. It is very much in tandem with like your skill set. Like if you're not a great teammate, but you hit the ball high and hard, like it's still not going to have a connect. Like you have to be both at this level. And like, we know it's more fun, like to actually show up for your teammates, like every single day and be like, I can help you get better. You can help me get better. We can do this together. We really just want one thing, and we want our team to win. So whatever I can do on the bench from afar to help you feel like $1 million and for us to win, like everybody wins here. You know, it's true. I haven't even seen that in other sports all the time. There's something about volleyball that like the bench, we're not even sitting down. Like the bench chairs are just there for show. Like we're at the end of the bench cheering each other on, like getting hyped, throwing towels. Like, I don't know, that one helps you stay warm, but two, it cheers on your teammates and makes them feel like they're the rock stars they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So now coming back to Love in Austin, what kind of volleyball culture do you and your teammates want to establish this year?
So, every day in our gym, it's pretty competitive. I can't foresee like a solid starting seven. Like we have multiple lineups that can be successful on this team. But what I love and what we just touched on is that everybody's cheering for one another and wants each other to be and do the absolute best they can. And so I think that's kind of our backbone, is like this selfless, give it everything you have, because we know how special this moment really is. We are lucky to be in this generation that gets to play professional volleyball and get paid to do it.
Yeah.
And so really showing up every single day and taking advantage of that. I will say our two captains, Julianne Fawcett and Carly Lloyd, they absolutely emulate that every single day. They're such wonderful leaders and they show up for us. And so it's like, how can I not reciprocate that,
Yeah.
And so they've really set the standard of that. And very quickly, everyone has bought in. And so I don't know, we're only a couple weeks into our preseason, but it already feels like we're enjoying our time together. But we know how serious this is and how much we have to take advantage of, like, giving it our best.
Nice. And now, what's special about Texas volleyball's fan base compared to other places you've played? Why is Texas, like you touched a little bit earlier, just Texas it hits different.
I love our fans so much. Have you been to a Texas volleyball game?
No, I haven't.
It is a riot. One, that gym, Gregory Gym, is really cool. It only holds like 4,500, but it's like very narrow and steep. So it almost feels like the fans are like right on top of the court. It's great. But Texas fans are so bought in. They like to have fun and like dance on the court. Like they're also like really interested in us as humans off the court. Like I feel like there's such a strong connection. And like I haven't lived in Austin for 8 years, but like even still, I'll go to the grocery store and somebody will recognize me. Like that's cool. Like I'm not one of the most relevant college athletes anymore, but like people are like, oh no, I watched you growing up. Like there's a really strong volleyball culture here that I haven't seen in other cities in America. I haven't seen in other cities overseas.
Yeah.
Like it's such a strong volleyball community. I think Austin Juniors has a huge piece of that, and also Roots Volleyball, the other Love Club. Like the youth space is so wonderful and committed, and like it just grows to Texas volleyball. There's also a ton of adult leagues here in Austin, so like the community is still playing, and so they just are also supporting us. Like on Friday, we're gonna go watch the men play for VLA, and support them. So like there's just like this shared bond of all of these volleyball people wanting this sport to succeed.
Nice. And now, when it comes to volleyball, who's been your biggest influence in your development as a player? It could be more than one, too.
It's been a lot of people. Yeah, it's been a lot of people. I will say like Eric Sullivan at Texas, the assistant coach, was integral on my blocking and attacking game at Texas. He really set the foundation of like my blocking style and how I read and see the game. Like, I just think he's such a volleyball genius. It was really, really fun to learn from him. And then I'll take like Donnie Mabe, our strength coach. He was really helpful in like how I want to show up as a teammate every single day. The lessons I learned from him, I've carried into my professional game. I spent a year I was the men's volleyball director of operations at Pepperdine.
Oh, okay.
And one of the years so I worked for AU full time, but the year prior I was living in Ventura, California. And that year I spent working with the men's volleyball team there. And I'll say men's volleyball it's like women's volleyball, but heightened in terms of gratitude. Like these guys are just so excited every single day to play. Like most of them are paying their way to be there. Like
Right.
They're just so filled with gratitude that they like get to do this sport and they get to hang out with their friends all day and they get to learn. Like that showed me so much. Just that one season that I spent with them, like showed me a lot of like how I want to be as a teammate. I also had the very fortunate experience of hanging out with Marv Dunphy a lot of the time. So, I mean, I would just chat with him in his office for hours and just try to learn everything I could, but also hang out with him and see how he treated other people and how he coached and saw the game. He's like the grandfather of volleyball, and I still to this day, I wish I could hang out with him every day. Like he's such a wonderful, kind human in general, like a mentor in himself, but then like add volleyball genius. And it was like that year taught me a lot, just about how I want to show up in sports and leadership, and how lucky I am to continue playing this sport, and how I should take advantage of it right now, and how precious it all is. And so that's many people. I now realize there are many people that have touched my life. And
that's all good. And now when it comes to game time, you know, do you have any pregame rituals? Do you need a nap, a certain meal, or a certain playlist you listen to?
I try very hard to not have things that I must do. Like I don't have any superstitions. On a dream day before a match, I'd love to take a nap. I'm a big sleeper, big nap girl. And then before the game, I'll make myself a PB&J. It's usually like my in-game snack, or like a banana. I definitely drink a coffee like a couple hours before the match, but I don't want to go in because chaos always ensues. So I'm never the one to be like, I must put on my socks this way, or I must listen to this song. Like I just try to listen to songs that make me feel light and happy.
Yeah.
Just most of the music I listen to anyways. And think about all the things that I'm grateful for going into the match, and then visualize the match. I'm a big meditate and visualize before entering the match. I think 90% of this game is mental. Yeah. So mentally preparing is the biggest thing I try to do, and not so much focused on like, am I wearing the right underwear today? Is it my lucky underwear? You know?
Yes. And now, you know, I know it's early, but I ask this about all the people, all the players, you know, are you seeing anybody on the team who do you think is going to be that joker, that one that's just going to be able to crack the tension?
Oh, it's Cat Bell.
Right away, no hesitation.
Yes. Cat Bell is a riot. She always brings the laughs. If it's not going to be Cat Bell, it's going to be our assistant coach, Stacy Sikora. Both of them are just every day cracking jokes, smile on their face. It's wonderful to have, honestly. Excellent. That kind of energy. Yeah, that's great.
All right. And now for those sneakerheads out there, what shoes are you going to be playing in?
So I'm a Nike athlete, and I am a Nike athlete because I love their shoes. So I play in the Nike Hyperset 2s. They are my favorite shoe. They're like a mid-top. They're really light. So I used to play in basketball shoes, but I find that a lot of them are heavy and not as, I need the cushion in a basketball shoe, but I can't have them be heavy. Yeah. So, you know, we're constantly moving, lateral movements and jumping. So I love these shoes so much. I know that I get paid to say that, but I really do actually. The reason why I signed with Nike is because I enjoy their shoes.
Yeah. All right. And now, you know, as a middle blocker, what is your favorite set to hit? Or would you, you know, if there's one thing you look forward to most in the game, is a certain set, or is it maybe a one-on-one block out of the back row, you're just stuffing somebody?
Oh, it has to be a block. I absolutely love blocking so much. It's the best feeling in the entire world. Yeah, either it's a one-on-one block, like blocking out of the back row, or the middle. I think an in-system block on the outside just feels like I can conquer the world. Yeah. Like they're usually fast, right? And the outside is never expecting to get blocked in system. But if you can get that block, it's like the best thing ever.
All right. And speaking of blocking, you know, what are some common mistakes or misconceptions young players make when trying to learn to play the middle blocking position?
Yeah, it's of course being tall has its advantages. But I would say the middle is one of the most athletic positions because you need to move laterally very fast and read the game all while getting out of the way. This game as a middle, I think also it's always just like a running joke of like, oh, such a middle thing to do, or like you know, the middles don't like think during their round. I've heard that so many times. I'm like, what? If you were in my mind, you would realize the chaos that is actually happening in my brain. But reading the game is really, really important. I think I wish I spent more time as a kid, like actually watching film and understanding blocking situations and like talking that through. Also, your voice as a middle blocker is so important. Transition, getting up on time, telling your setter, like, this is what I need, lay it up for me, or blocking timing. Middles need to be like the captain of the front row. And I know that middles are running most of the time, but you also need to be yelling. So, like, if you can get into that cardio shape and do that, that is going to serve you very well.
All right. And then, if you have a couple of bad plays, what's your thing to reset yourself, to refocus, readjust?
A breath, and then like volleyball always gets a lot of flack for how often we huddle. We're always like touching each other and looking each other eye in the huddle. And other sports are like, why are you always doing that after every point, win or lose? But it really is a moment, like a deep breath, a look in each other's eyes of like, hey, we got this. Touch each other, high five each other, and it's truly a reset that you need almost every time because somebody has to make a mistake. This game is a game of mistakes.
Yeah.
So how much you can reset in that huddle every single time and just have a short memory and not think about the past, like that is what truly helps me and my teammates.
All right. And now, through your time at Texas, you probably had a great nutritionist, playing pro for so many years. You know the importance of eating well. And so for, all of us parents who have these kids that don't want to listen to mom and dad say, hey, did you eat something good? From your standpoint, how important is nutrition, whether it's the day of the game or before practice?
Nutrition is very, very important. I know that young kids can kind of get away with like eating hot Cheetos and like fried chicken before match and be fine. But like if you ate a better meal and like carbs are so important, especially I think they're like stigmatized too, especially as women. But like carbs at every meal, no question. Like I am very much paying attention to the amount of protein I have, but like especially leading into a match, like I'm having pasta or rice or sweet potatoes. Like I need those carbs to function. I also think about at this age too of like supplements.
Mm-hmm.
So like glucosamine for your joints, creatine. Women need to take creatine. The younger you take it, the better every single day for keeping your muscle on and also brain health. That's something I always preach. And I think all women are under proteined. And I used to be a vegan and a vegetarian, and I know it's difficult, but like focusing on, I mean, I had like protein shakes like at least 3 times a day, but wow. Like Greek yogurt or chickpeas, like there are many ways to consume protein that are not animal, like, or like a beef jerky steak. I know that those are super popular, but the salt is not really great for you. But I'd say, really focusing on having a lot of protein throughout the day. What is it? Like half of your body weight at least in grams. Like I know for a fact that I don't even get that much and I'm like focusing on it to build muscle. But then like, I think about meals in the way of like, okay, what am I about to do? Or what did I just do? Mm-hmm. Like I'm about to go into practice at 9:30 in the morning. That means I need carbs and protein and like some vitamins, right? So like nutrients I'm getting from like blueberries, and carbs, it's like a bagel, and then protein, it's egg. So like I'm thinking of it in terms of like, what are the energy stores that I need going into practice? And then after practice, it's like, okay, I've depleted myself of all of this energy and I now need to restore my body with nutrients. So I'm more focused on like protein and like greens and a salad and stuff after practice. And then dinner is preparing for the next day. So like that's rice or pasta or whatever to like prepare for the next day. So
nice.
That's how I think about it.
Excellent. That's a great answer. So now we got a couple of fun questions. So I had Eric Shoji on, and him and Taylor Averill have this thing, what's the toughest position in volleyball? So Molly, I'm probably guessing your answer already, but what is the toughest position in volleyball?
I'm going to say middle. I have to say middle. It's the hardest.
All right.
By far.
So, and then now recently I just had Christian Huron, who's the PME. He's Mr. TikTok for all the volleyball stuff you probably see on your reels. And he had a good question. He was asking Team USA women when he was in Japan. So Molly, I'm going to ask you this one. What is the easiest position in volleyball?
Opposite.
Okay. All right. There we go. And now,
By far.
well, that was the same question or same answer he gave to me that he got from the a lot of the Team USA ladies was like, yeah, right side. It's like a vacation.
It's a vacation and you get paid the most. It's like, it's hilarious. I'm like, what?
And now, away from volleyball, what are some of the things you enjoy?
I'm a big reader. I love to read. I love just exploring cities. So honestly, this sounds cliche, but one of my favorite things to do is just put on a really cute outfit and walk around and go to a cute coffee shop and read my book.
Nice.
Like that brings me so much joy. And whether I bring a friend or not, like just getting out and experiencing whatever city I'm in. I love coffee culture and I love reading. So those are some things. I'm a very grandma-esque kind of person. I'm not one to go out very often.
And so looping back to when you said your favorite movie was Harry Potter, I'm assuming you've read the books, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yes. Good. Yes. They're so well done. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. You should listen to the guy too.
The English guy, Stephen Fry.
Oh, yes.
The audiobooks. Oh my God. Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Next road trip.
I've done them. They're amazing. My oldest, when she was, I think, 11 or 10, she started through those books and she was going so fast that we had to stop her because with every book, they age and it was getting more, sort of more grown up. It's like, okay, you can't read this book because, there's a lot of death. So hang on. And oh yeah, those
very dark.
Yes. But they were so well done though. Absolutely. So,
yes.
All right, Molly. Well, hey, thank you so much for doing this. But before I go with like past guests, I look for you to recommend somebody in your volleyball circle that, has a great story and we should get them on.
I would say Carly Lloyd.
Okay.
She's one of my current teammates. She has a wonderful story and she's also a wonderful human.
Excellent.
And she's a mother. So I think that perspective is really wonderful.
And that's something, in the pro sports, from the men's side of things, you don't have to, as a female professional athletes, that's something you've got to try to, deal with. And I'm sure it is not easy.
Yeah, it's not, but she handles it with so much grace and poise. She's a true rock star.
Nice. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this. It was wonderful to meet you and good luck next season.
Thanks so much for having me on, Barry.